Well, hello, everybody out in Progress Report land. That's Manchester, Auburn, and Hooksett, and all of you watching on your computers, I hope around not only the country but the world. This is the first Wednesday in September. Hey, that's sad to say, isn't it? Although September is one of the sweetest months we have in northern New England. I suppose not only there, but it's a wonderful month. It just should be longer. But we're into it, and this means it's time for our primary election season. We'll have primary elections coming up just 6 days away, September 13th, about the latest primary of any state in the Union, but we will be having a primary election. And this election, like all of them, is going to be very important. You may think that all the issues are on the Republican side, and there's good reason for that. There's very contested elections to oppose Maggie Hassan, to oppose Chris Pappas, and tonight WMUR is having a debate with several people trying to have the honor of being defeated by Annie Custer since it's Congressional District 2. But we are here with somebody who's come on to make a dramatic entrance into the scene by running for state senate. Up until now, I think we've only had two state senate candidacies that have not been opposed.
Yes.
And that's about to change. All we have to do is go out on September 13th, those of us that think the Democrats should have a candidate in this race, and we will have an opportunity to write in a candidate. And she is June Trisciani, who is an outstanding candidate. She proved that in last year when we have our municipal elections. You know, in Hampshire we have lots of elections. We have elections every year. If you don't like the elections on the state level, the federal level, wait a year and you'll have elections on the municipal level. That's what we do in Manchester. And last year, June threw her hat into the ring to be alderman at large. Never before run for public office. And she pulled off what is an amazing result. She ended up the number one vote getter in citywide elections, to become the candidate and then the alderman representing one of two aldermen at large representing the great city of Manchester. And now she's looking forward to, she doesn't think that's enough work for her. She wants more work. So now she's trying to be a state senator representing Senate District 16. And there's already an interesting contest there among the Republicans for that seat, which will be decided on Tuesday, September 13th, as so many of these contested elections will be. But we could not be more pleased than to have June Trisciani and her wonderful husband, Jeff, who's been with her at her side, and I think a key part of her success. I love to see when couples are a strong team working together. And you two have done that. I mean, it's really inspiring.
You have to.
I don't know anything about your personal life, but I can see in your public life you're supportive of each other in a very great way, and it's really inspiring. So, June, welcome, and thank you for being. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but why don't you introduce yourself more than I have? Tell us a little about who you are, why you decided to get into the electoral politics last year, and why you're taking on probably even a more daunting, last year was pretty daunting. I can't gainsay that. But maybe you have even a more daunting, I don't know. Tell us about that and why you're deciding to do it.
So mainly, I was born and raised in Manchester. I am a fourth-generation resident of the city. And throughout COVID, we're all watching. I've always been very involved in the community. I've served on the Heritage Commission. I've served on the planning board, chaired the planning board. And frustration just kind of mounted with the amount of partisanship and the contested nature of the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. And it felt like people on the board were really losing sight of the community that we're supposed to be serving. And it just bubbled up enough that we had a conversation one night about running, and Kevin was already in Ward 1, and Kevin Kavanaugh does a great job for us. So we kind of spun the wheel and said, Alderman at large it is, and let's figure out how to win this.
Yeah. Did you have any debate about which was going to be the candidate and which was going to be the supporter? I mean, Jeff,
Not really.
I can see you as a pretty strong candidate in your own right.
Well, thank you. That's wonderful. As June said, she was born and raised here. I've never met anyone who loves their hometown more than June does.
Really?
And yes.
What a nice thing to be able to say.
And before she and I ever went out on a date, we worked together. So I knew what she was capable of in a work environment. She has great judgment, great discernment, and so I knew that she would be an excellent at this role. Not just winning the election, but functioning in the role afterward. And I have no doubt that she'll be a great as state senator. Also, the workload will go up quite a bit, but I'm ready to jump in there.
He means
Wow,
his workload at home.
that is so impressive. You two are quite a team, I have to say. So I know a lot of people, and I was one of them, was quite concerned when we saw that Senate District 16, which Kevin Kavanaugh decided he was no longer going to participate in. He thought it had been gerrymandered greatly to his disadvantage, and he's going to be, I hope, the next executive counselor. We would be well served if he can pull that off. And so we're here. We are. We're going through the entire, filing period for running for office. Nobody's signing up to run against Barbara Griffin from Goffstown, who is the architect of the redistricting that we're putting up with, which put Kevin Kavanaugh at such a disadvantage. And here you come. And it's an unbelievable, courage and audacity. But why?
I think it was a similar thing. We hadn't, throughout, we're also very engaged with other folks who hold office in Manchester and are running in Manchester. And throughout the whole process, every time we'd get together, there was a lot of concern about not having anyone in District 16. And for people that aren't aware, District 16 is Ward 1 in Manchester, Hooksett, Candia, Raymond, and Goffstown. So we kind of
That's
go
it?
in a
The-
line.
only
and
the
then
one
we're over
ward in
here.
Manchester now?
One ward in Manchester now.
Oh, really?
So, looking at it, it was something that, again, it was just very frustrating, but really didn't think I wasn't really gearing up for an election. Had I?
Well, you just did it.
Yes, and I was actually looking forward to supporting everybody else and doing my job as alderman at large and just kind of, having a summer. But in talking to the party, and this was not a decision that we came to lightly. This
Yeah.
was over the course of a few days, a weekend, and realized that, again, we can't hand this district over to someone who doesn't represent what the community wants and
Yeah.
what the people in these communities
Right,
want.
right.
We're creating the situation where we've got, extremists that are going to Concord to push an agenda that, remarkably, isn't supported by most of the people in New Hampshire.
Right. I think you're right.
So it's time to get back, and in talking to Senator Soucy, Senator D'Alessandro, we need to give it a shot, and we need to try to retain this seat, and we need to just keep common sense going in the Senate.
Right, right. Well, that's taking on, you've got a big job right now, alderman at large, in your very first electoral outing, to be the top getter and vote getter. How's that gone for you? Have you found it rewarding? Have you thought you've been able to make a difference as one of 14 aldermen in the city of Manchester, but one of the two that represents the entire community instead of just a particular ward?
So in my judgment, she is energized by it.
Really?
There is something about it that it's just been, like I said, always been involved in the community, always wanting to help, but there's a different level now where I can actually do my job and work with others, and we can make a difference.
Yeah.
We passed a great, solid budget.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be on the committee with Alderman Long, Kavanaugh, and Barry to actually put together what is this budget going to look like, and what are we going to work with the aldermen to present.
Wow.
In response to the mayor's budget. And I think we came up with some solutions that just were what the city has needed. And I think we worked it well enough that when it came time for the vote, we actually had a solid vote on the budget this year.
Wow.
We received calls after that it was the first time we didn't really have a contentious budget.
Really?
Yeah, we were able
Well,
to.
that's a real achievement. Yeah.
We were able to gain consensus, and we settled 13 of the contracts in the city.
Wow.
With a favorable result. We also, at the last, not the last meeting, but the prior meeting, voted on the teacher's contract.
Very big.
So it's been some great, solid work with the city employees and the team members, and just being able to be involved at that level where we can make a difference and we can do better for the city.
That's excellent. So I know you're on the board of, not on the board of school committee, but as an alderman, you have the ultimate say over what their budget is going to be. And we're just beginning to start the new school year with the largest school district, still the largest school district in the state of New Hampshire by far.
Yes.
It's down from, I think a few years ago we had something like 15,000 plus students. We're down to 12,000 and a few hundred. How do you think our school district is doing? We have a new school superintendent. She's promoted from within. Give us your thoughts on that. I mean, I think the beginning of the school year is a time of such hope and opportunity, and what do you got for us on that?
I don't know if you realize this, but I actually taught high school.
Did you?
Yeah,
No,
all
I did
of my
not know
degrees
that.
are in education.
What did you teach?
I taught high school business. I had marketing, computers, accounting,
Really?
business
Okay.
law, economics.
I admire teachers so much.
It's an amazing
What
job.
a tough job.
It is a tough job, and I know from when I was teaching to now, it's a whole different landscape.
Yeah.
But it's been nice, and it's been helpful to understand at least a portion of that world. I think Dr. Gillis has, she's off to a great start.
I think so.
She's,
It seems to be.
just a few months in. So I think, I've had conversations. I'm supporting her with what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to bring some change. We were able to, several of us were able to participate in the teacher's first day. We did our little pep rally at the
You were there?
new arena, yes. And just the excitement in the room and the teachers, and it made my day when one of my former students who graduated the last year I taught is actually starting her first year at Wilson School.
As a teacher?
As a teacher.
Wonderful.
So the excitement in the room, I think everybody is looking forward to some new things. Like I said, the contract was negotiated. There's some great things in there to keep us moving forward.
Wow.
And I think we also were able to work with the Board of School Committee, and they just passed the $15 an hour for paraprofessionals, Century 21 program teachers, and
Have
also
they
the
managed
lunch
to get the
staff.
people they need to, I guess they got the teachers they need, but I understand that paraprofessionals has been the really tough thing to
Yes.
fill up those positions.
Yes, and that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other things that kind of, made this decision of running for Senate is really the issue we have as a state with school funding.
Yeah.
Manchester suffers from this since the Claremont lawsuit happened. Nothing has changed. We've got another lawsuit pending that Manchester signed on to. Who knows what's going to change? We need voices at the state level that are going to fight for this.
Yeah.
Manchester has our issues. We're just not funded where we need to be. In Raymond, which will be one of the areas I represent, they're in a similar situation. Their property taxes, I think they're $27 per thousand. Their teacher pay is, out of 116 districts, I think they're 113th in pay scales. Just funding is just difficult, and we've got to do better for our children. We've got to do better for our schools, and we've got to sort out, running the state with a surplus sounds all well and good, but if we're not taking care of the people in our state, a surplus is meaningless.
Yeah, really. Wow, no, I did not know you had that teacher experience. I think that's a great qualification for public service, though, because teachers are,
She's actually had a few different careers on her way to Alderman at Large.
really. Yeah.
I did my teaching.
I grew up in Goffstown, and out there they just had a celebration for a woman who just turned 100. And they had big banners in towns, and they had buses to take people.
Wow.
She was a teacher, and this is her students did this for her. It was really just charming and really quite a great celebration. So that just shows you what a teacher can mean to people, and so that's really good. So what would you say are the things that you are most proud of accomplishing? I mean, you only had 1 year as being an alderman.
Not even a
Alderman
year.
at large, and but you mentioned that the budget was a success. Any other things that you would particularly point to as a record that you would like to mention from your time as public service
I
servant?
think at this point we're still working on a few things, but it's we're currently just plugging along. I don't know if hopefully everybody has seen the news about the latest build grant that's been awarded to upgrade the mill yard and to make it a biotech center.
Yeah, that's quite exciting.
Yeah, so that in combination with the Inflation Reduction Act is going to open up so many opportunities for not only Manchester but all of our local economy.
Right.
For bringing things in like clean energy, for helping us with our housing,
Yeah.
affordable housing, help build these biotech businesses, help with the schools to actually, help with some of our higher learning institutions, as well as our on-the-job training and unions to feed people into jobs.
There
Yeah.
are many communities competing for that,
Yes.
right?
Really, very good. So, here you are with a very full plate about dealing with all the issues of a municipality. Indeed, we are still the largest city in northern New England and look to be for quite a while to come. We are, we think of New Hampshire as more of a rural state, but we do have the largest urban center in northern New England. And with all the problems that brings with the homeless and, all of these things that we hear about all the time, and now you want to take on more. What made you decide to do that?
I think some of it is, again, like we had talked about, I can't put our communities and the communities that District 16 will be representing into the hands of extremists who are just there to tear us down.
Yeah.
New Hampshire has always been, Manchester is very resilient as a state. We've been resilient. We've been able to weather storms because of the people in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And I think part of what I'm also very cognizant of is a lot of things that we want to do on the city level, we can't fix without support from the state level.
Right.
So when it comes to, our affordable housing, when it comes to, public safety, when it's healthcare and reproductive rights, it's education and school funding, it's mental health and substance abuse. These are challenges that we are facing every day in Manchester, and there's nothing more frustrating than saying, as a city, as an alderman at large in the city, I can't fix that.
Mm-hmm.
I need the state to come in and fix that. So I think getting a seat at the state level as well as the city level is going to help us be able to push some of these things forward and really fight for a lot of what we need to help not only Manchester but all of our communities. I think what people seem to forget is things are happening in Manchester, and it's very easy to say, oh, it's a city, those are city problems. Well, these problems exist everywhere.
Yeah, they do.
School funding exists everywhere. The fact that some of our workers, Even at all of these levels, can't even live in their own community because they can't find affordable housing.
Right.
It's just gotten out of control.
And I think people forget, my good friend Lou D'Alessandro, I'm sorry you're not with us today, Lou. I'm hoping you'll be back with us real soon, and I'm looking forward to your calling in. I'm expecting that. But Lou reminds me that everything that we don't fund at the state level, and then the Republicans talk about how they've cut taxes, the needs don't go away.
Right.
They just descend to the local level and end up on the property tax.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And you're not the first one to seek to represent the city both at the municipal level and the state level. We have some great people, Pat Long, Kevin Kavanaugh himself, that have done that so ably and made such a difference. So I think this is a perfect thing for you to be thinking about. But it is going to add a lot to your
It will.
your tasks that you need to do. Here we have an incoming call. I know that this is Lou. Lou?
Commander Backus.
Lou D'Alessandro.
Commander Backus was a good show.
I hope you're watching our guest and her husband. And
Yes,
we are missing you, but I would love to have you participate.
Coming across very well, and I'm apologetic that I couldn't get there tonight, but I had a little fall at the State House, and I'm recovering, so I'm in good shape. But I want to be in better shape.
Yeah, yeah.
But as we move forward, we needed a candidate in Senate District 16. That should never be a seat that goes unopposed, and I'm glad that Judith stepped up, and certainly she'll have my support. I had the honor and privilege of representing Goffstown for 24 years.
Yes, you do.
And it's a great community. It's a growing community. There's just a great deal of very positive things that are taking place. But as a tough district, June, as you know, when you take one ward in Manchester, which is Ward 1, and I'm sure that you'll do very well there, and you add Goffstown and Raymond and Hooksett, you really create a Republican district, which is what redistricting did. And I was sorry to lose Goffstown, but we lost a terrific guy in Kevin Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and you'd be a wonderful replacement. So nothing is easy in this life, as you know. You fought hard to be on the Board of Aldermen, becoming the vote getter, the true giant vote getter for Aldermen at large, and have done a great job there. And I'm sure that you'll meet with success. Nothing is easy, as I say. It's a tough district. We know that it's a tough district, but it's winnable. Anything is winnable. And in today's world, with things changing as rapidly as they are, the big deal will be getting people out to vote.
Yes.
We've got to get people out to vote.
Yeah, we do. The turnout is everything. And Lou, you mentioned that this is a tough district. Well, it was made a tough district by who was probably going to be our guest's opponent, Barbara Griffin from Goffstown. She was the head of the redistricting effort this year. We just had a
redistricting in the House, right?
in the House, and her efforts to redistrict the congressional district was so egregiously bad that it had to be turned over, that even Sununu couldn't accept it. It had to be corrected by the New Hampshire Supreme Court. I mean,
I think the Senate district, the congressional district was appalling.
Yeah.
It was worse than the Senate district, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the Senate district was bad.
Yeah, the Senate district, again, creates a Republican district, a district that is very much favoring the Republicans. And Barbara was chairman of the redistricting in the House. Senator Gray was the chairman of redistricting in the Senate. The goal was to get rid of one of the three senators that represented Manchester.
Yeah.
That was the goal of the redistricting.
Well, they thought they'd done it, but maybe they haven't.
Oh, hopefully not. But anyway, June has some great ideas, and having been involved in municipal government, I think when we were in control of the Senate, we did put together a budget that gave $20 million a year in municipal aid to the cities and towns. I would hope that we could restore that in the next session of the legislature, because that really is part of the revenue sharing plan that was created by Walter Peterson many years ago, and that's been suspended year after year after year. And to June's comments about property tax and the ability to own a home in Manchester, with that money coming back as it should come back, the state has a wonderful surplus right now, and they should have funded municipal aid. I voted against the budget. I thought the budget was atrocious. I thought the public policy that was contained in the budget was very damaging, and they forgot about revenue sharing and forgot about municipal aid, and reduced the statewide property tax by $100 million, and that's going to come back to haunt us in the next session. But let's talk about June and her ability to move forward with reckless abandon, capture the seat in the Senate District 16.
Well, I
What
hope.
do you have to do?
What does she need to do, Lou? You've run in many elections, and you're a revered senior statesman and contributor for many years. What would you tell her she's got to do? I mean, I think she's going to be a great candidate. She is a great candidate.
Well, I think one of the keys in any election is visibility, and that takes effort on the candidate's part and the people working with her to be at events in the different communities, and that's number one. visibility is important. Letting people know of your concern for the every individual in the community. That's so significant. We spend a lot of time on policy, but let me tell you what I think success in good government is. It's all about relationships and creating relationships with key members of the society and working on those relationships and letting those relationships grow. Now, you haven't got a lot of time to do that, but certainly her experience in Manchester, it was 12 wards in Manchester. Now, when you look at the 12 wards in Manchester and you look at the aggregate size of Manchester versus the district, Manchester's larger than the district. So she was able to communicate with people, show people that she was concerned about their well-being, created relationships with people, and I think you have to sustain that. I believe the success in politics really depends on relationships. You got to be liked. I think that's very important, and you've got to be available. People want you available, and June knows that. I'm sure she gets lots of calls, and in her aldermanic job about little problems that take place, and I believe you have to address those. So being available, it kind of kind of takes all of your time, but that's what you're committed to as a public servant. So my best advice is create relationships, get visibility, remain likable, and go get them. That's really what you have to do. It's not a lot of time. You got the primary coming up, and you got to get the number of write-in votes that are needed to be the Democratic candidate. I'm sure you'll get those, and then it's on to a hearty campaign over the next month and a half.
Yeah. Great, Lou. Thank you so much for calling in. We miss you
you're
here.
welcome.
We wish you here. We want you back real soon. And
Thank you.
I hope that the ailment that's keeping you from being here tonight is over real soon, and you'll be back on this studio with us, the first Wednesday in October. And
Thank you very much. And to June, good luck. Hopefully we can help in the campaign. And to you, Bob, thanks as always for your kind words. And I want everybody to be happy, be healthy. Let's talk for 1 second about our schools. Public education is the key to a democratic society. We have good public education. We've got to sustain it. We are part of a suit, in my opinion. With the plaintiffs have a very strong position in that suit, particularly based on what happened in this budget with regard to funding of public education. So let's move forward with vigor and enthusiasm. Wish our new superintendent all the best, and let's do good things together. Thanks so much, and please take care.
all right, thanks,
Bye,
Lou.
Lou. That was, how do you go wrong with the support that I'm getting from Senator D'Alessandro, Senator Susi, and Senator Kavanaugh?
Well, that's really nice, because these are three pretty terrific people.
These are pretty amazing people. I had the, Lou, being in Manchester, always friends with my family. I grew up with Donna Susi and Kevin Kavanaugh. So it's kind of fun to be back together and working so hard together. And to Lou's point, the biggest thing is getting out and building the relationships. And I think that's where most of my concern with this election is right now. When I ran for alderman, I had, we made our decision pretty much in March. We started hitting, the ground in April.
Had a lot more lead time.
And we had the lead time. We had a very solid, we're planners, so we had a very solid plan, and we executed the plan. With this one, it's a little bit different. In fact, since last Thursday morning's announcement, I should say since last Wednesday, it's been just reaching out to, each of the party leaders and the Democratic leaders in each community to have those conversations and start learning more about it.
Well, you've got some great supporters out there.
We have some amazing people. We were in Candia on Sunday night to meet some of the Candia and Raymond Dems. Which, in my theory, if they're coming out on a Sunday night on Labor Day weekend, I will be there.
Yeah, damn right.
And I think the big thing, a lot of times candidates that step up for these roles, and I think this happens on all sides, it's let's get a name out there for a placeholder. And one of the biggest things that I've been trying to work with people and hope that they understand from my track record and from what I do is I am not and will never be a placeholder.
No,
The reason this decision was difficult for us and took a little bit of time to really get our head around it is because I knew that it had to be taken seriously. I have to be all in to win this.
You do.
I can't,
That's
I
true.
have my supporters and the people that are all backing me, and I have to do what's best for all of us to win the seat.
Yeah. Hey, folks, we usually take a break here on the progress report. I think we'll take one right now, Brendan, if we may. And when you come back, I'd like you to run that video that Mike Farley sent over about the issue of protecting democracy as being a big issue this time. And then we'll be back to have some more conversation with our outstanding candidate who's about to be a candidate. By the way, how many write-in votes do you need to get to be on the ballot?
In New Hampshire, you need 35 or 10% of the turnout, whichever is less. We're obviously shooting for way more.
Way more. We should be able to get 35.
I'm hoping we can, yeah.
I'd sign a ballot 35 times for you
Probably
myself.
even 37.
Yeah, I know, maybe. I heard I got 2 today, so things are looking up.
That's really great because there was a lot of concern that there was no Democratic candidate to oppose the winner of this District 16 contest between Barbara Griffin and Vnukovic. I don't know who he is.
Yakubovich.
But apparently he's even more Trumpier than she is. It's hard to believe. But there you go. And so we'll be right back. And folks, we had a great call from Lou, but we programmed that in. We'd like to hear from others too out there. We always really enjoy it when people call in. You don't have to agree with us. I don't care whether you agree with us. But be part of the conversation, and we'll treat you with courtesy and respect you. And if you want to call in, 640-3091, and we'll be right back with the second part of the progress report for the first Wednesday in this beautiful month of September. Hey, folks, this is the progress report for the first Wednesday in September. Normally, I'm joined here by my dear friend and the Dean of the State Senate, Lou D'Alessandro. He's a little bit incapacitated today, but he's on the mend, and I hope he'll be back with us for the first first show in October. But he did provide a call in if you were with us. If you're not, we have repeats, which was very nice. But my good friend Mike Farley, who usually is my host here, the other 3 Wednesdays or 4 Wednesdays of the month when it's not the first Wednesday, has left us a video, and I really appreciate him doing that. And I'm going to ask Brenda to play that right now. It has to do with the fact that polls are showing the threat to democracy is a major issue in this country right now.
With that new NBC News national poll, which shows 57% of Americans believe the investigations into Donald Trump should continue. 40% say they should stop. When it comes to top issues facing the country, threats to democracy have overtaken the cost of living. The poll also shows a very dissatisfied electorate. Tracking with other numbers we've seen for several months now, 74% of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. A record 58% believe America's best days are behind it. And 68% believe the United States currently is in a recession. Republicans have a slight 2-point edge when it comes to which party voters want to control Congress, though that's in the margin of error, a tie game there. But Democrats have significantly closed the enthusiasm gap. 68% of Republicans express a high level of interest in the upcoming election versus 66% for Democrats. In May, that gap was 8 points. Let's go straight.
Hey, thanks, Brendan. That's an interesting poll. And I got quite excited when I saw that, and then I wondered if I should really be all that excited, because I can understand a lot of Republicans, the one that believe that Trump actually won the election and the whole damn thing was a big fraud, they might say democracy is a threat too. So I'm a little bit not so excited about that, but I do believe that democracy is under threat in this country in a major way from major significant elements of the opposition party. That would be the Republican Party. And so I was interested that Mike dug that out for us, because I think it's a really telling thing. And I have to say, as we look at the race we're talking about now, which is to be the Democratic nominee for State Senate and Senate District 16, which used to include 3 wards in Manchester. Now we're down to 1, plus a number of towns, which have typically tended pretty Republican. That's quite a difference. And in any event, we have a candidate who's come forward. She just told us before the break that to be on the ballot in November, on the primary Tuesday, and folks, vote, vote, vote. I mean, all the energy seems to be because of the contest they have on the Republican side. But Democrats will turn out, and I hope they'll turn out in large numbers, and because we need write-in votes to put June on the ballot to be the opponent for the winner of the Republican primary, which is between Barbara Griffin from Goffstown and what's his name, Bakunovich?
Michael Yakubovich.
Yakubovich from, I don't know where he's from, but he's running to even more Trumpier side than she is, which is hard to believe. But I would like to say this about Barbara Griffin. As a Goffstown guy myself, grown up and, educated there and still spends a lot of time out there, enjoying the Goffstown Rail Trail and so forth. And having served with her in the New Hampshire House, I thought she was a person of some integrity. Well, I don't know what I want to say. I thought she would rise above total partisanship. But in this case, with the bicentennial, census that we have every 10 years in 2020, and then that being used to inform the reshaping of districts, because our governor, Sununu, voted one of the best bills we passed, which was to have an independent redistricting commission, to take this out of the hands of the Republicans and let an independent group of people make these decisions. He vetoed that bill. I think it was one of the most distressing vetoes I've ever voted to override, but it did not prevail. And so she took this over, and she arranged to she was in charge of both the congressional and the senatorial district. Was she or was she not?
I think she was just congressional, but I'm sure there were voices in the...
Okay, just the congressional district. Her gerrymandering of the congressional district was so egregious that even Governor Sununu couldn't stomach it, and eventually the New Hampshire Supreme Court had to do it. So instead of moving, what was it going to be? Like a dozen towns from one district to another?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just ridiculous.
And it didn't make any logical sense.
It didn't make any sense. So we now have a somewhat fair playing field from our good friend Chris Pappas, who of course is in the election this year, because it's 2 years for every member of Congress except your U.S. senators and every state legislator, House and Senate. At least he's going to have a reasonable chance to be competitive this year, despite her best efforts. So that's the person that, unless this other guy somehow pulls off an upset, which he may, you never know. But Barbara Griffin, I thought she was better than this, and she wasn't. And, and they left you with a very tough district, but you have a plan to overcome.
We're going to do our best. One of my favorite things, and it happened before my last race, is I love nothing more than being labeled as the underdog.
Yeah, you're pretty good at beating that label.
Underestimate me away. We're going to work really hard, and I think we need to work with the communities on the issues that are affecting everyday people. Our electric bills are insane. Our heating oil is insane. Just our bills alone, what we've been seeing for electric, what we've been seeing for heating oil is astronomical. Thankfully, there is some help out there, but unfortunately, this could have been avoided. Again, our governor let us down. He appointed a commission that allowed these electric rates to go out of control, and this has become, sadly, it's become a partisan fight. Yeah. And since when did taking care of our community members and making sure that everybody had what they needed, why is that partisan? I don't understand.
Well, you're getting into my wheelhouse, which is energy policy. I was chair of the Science, Technology, and Energy Committee, and I could never get the Republicans to understand that if you want to control the costs people are paying for electricity and, other sources too, but principally electricity, you can't futz around with the rates. You got to help people save on their bills by letting them get their energy services using less electricity, called energy efficiency. They never got that idea, and they still don't. I don't know if you've seen. If you haven't, I think you should take a look on your busy day at the newest state energy policy came out of the Department of Energy, a new agency created by Sununu, which I think I may now regret. I supported the idea of having a Department of Energy, but they did it. And this Department of Energy has put out every few years they have to put out this energy strategy. And this one essentially says, in effect, our problems are the fact that our neighboring states have moved forward more aggressively on energy efficiency and renewables than we have. Like that's their fault that we have not, achieved these things. I mean,
Right.
it's just the most bizarre, misguided, retrograde thing I can ever imagine. So that brings me to a subject that I'm very interested in. I just got to get back to it with you and other aldermen. We have the state is fallen down on its face in addressing our energy costs, which, my great friend Amory Lovins, you know who he is?
No.
Oh my, I'll have to talk about him. Amory Lovins is the energy policy guy for all time. And he coined the term negawatts. Don't have more kilowatts, have more negawatts. Get your beer as cold as you want it. Get your showers as hot as you want it. Get your air conditioning cold as you want it. But use less kilowatts, negawatts. And that's where we've been absolutely falling apart on. But we have an opportunity in our community, as many other communities in New Hampshire have undertaken, and Hanover and Keene and many others, to have community power.
Yes.
And I don't know whether you've dealt with that at all in your role as an alderman, because you've been very busy with many things, but that's something I would urge that be taken up. And you know what I mean by community power?
It is interesting because I was just at a meeting this morning with
League of
Congressman,
Conservation
yes, the
Voters.
League of Conservation Voters with Congressman Pappas and House Rep Matt Wilhelm and
Who's
the
a
team to
great
talk
person.
about,
Yep.
everything that is coming down and how we need to do better at this. And one of my desires with the city. So coming in as an alderman, it's always fascinating because you start in January, you have the organizational meeting, and then, your first meeting, you're hitting the ground running with budgeting, and you've got to, we just happen to be in a year for negotiating contracts. So a lot of that takes center stage at first, because you've got, a little bit of the learning curve trying to make that all work. I, of course, like I said, had to jump into the budget. My experience has all been, in education, in the corporate world, in running my own business. That budgeting is very different than municipal budgeting, particularly when, as we are in Manchester, you have the constraints of a tax cap. So I kind of dove in to learn a lot more about that component. And on my list also is to start looking at how can we expand. We've done a great job. The mayor has done amazing with our solar arrays.
Yes.
But we have to do more and we have to do better. Hopefully with, with the build grant that we will be getting for the milliard, hopefully with the inflation reduction plan, those are things that we can start leveraging again, not just in Manchester, but in all of surrounding towns and communities.
Yep.
Again, Manchester isn't the only one with this problem. We're going to have people struggling to pay their electric, to pay their oil bills, and,
Yeah.
and that's just going
Yeah.
to expand. And it's something that is definitely, we have to look into it.
Well, the heart of community power, it's sort of like the analogy to the Inflation Reduction Act, where at long last, thank God, they permitted the federal government to negotiate for lower drug prices through Medicare. I mean, how could we let that go on for year after year, letting the drug companies pretty much charge whatever they want, when we have this powerful buying entity, the U.S. federal government, that could say, no, for our people on Medicare, it's a hell of a lot of people, including me. I mean, we want to be able to negotiate drug prices. And so that's a tremendous achievement on the federal level. And I think it's going to help you and other candidates in November enormously, and it should. But this is the same idea. Take Manchester's buying power to negotiate to get the bulk power supplies. As an individual homeowner or a small business person, you don't have too much sway. I mean, you have
Right.
at the PUC, they have all these choices you can make for different power sources.
But we don't use enough individually to have any say of negotiating prices.
That's right. That's right. It's
That's-
you don't have that power. But the city of Manchester, with its its population being by far the largest community in the state, and as I mentioned earlier, indeed in northern New England, they could. So that's a really great opportunity, I think, to move forward. But any event, enough about that. Let's talk about your campaign. you face a very gerrymandered district, you know, and it was so gerrymandered that Kevin Kavanaugh decided not to run and left it to you, as it turns out, and is, I hope, going to be our next executive counselor.
Yes.
But I mean, you've proven you are an effective campaigner. What's your plan? You don't have that, you know, assuming you get the votes, which I'm sure you will. Tuesday, what's your plan going forward to, you know, persuade a majority in this district?
It's, as Lou said, it's a ground game. It's getting word out. It's meeting with as many members of the community as we can fit in the short time we're going to have. It is working. You know, obviously there will be mailers because we, you know, not having the amount of time and the number of people we have to get, it's going to be tough. You know, the reality is, and one of my concerns with this election is I can't possibly knock every door and meet everyone.
That's right. You're
I
pretty
had
rural
that
district,
luxury
wasn't
in
it?
Manchester.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if
I
you knocked
don't
every door in
have
Manchester,
that
that was
here.
pretty good.
And you've also got a situation with, you know, I think the minimum lot size in Candia is 3 acres.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've done
It's a lot of shoe leather. A lot of shoe leather.
we've done a lot of presidential campaigns and
Yeah.
canvassing, and small town canvassing is tough. You've got to find more creative ways.
Yes, you do.
There was a great story on NPR, I think it was last presidential season, where when Jimmy Carter was running, you know, he had his volunteers from Georgia come up, and there were 2 lovely women who, I believe they were in Chester, knocking doors and canvassing by foot in Chester. And it was a cold January day. They didn't have, you know, nobody realized if you're canvassing in New Hampshire, if you're not wearing sneakers, you're truly not out canvassing. It's getting out there with, you know, you're in your most comfortable shoes, your most comfortable clothes, you're out there for business, and these poor women just weren't prepared for winter. And as the story went, of, you know, homeowners in Chester, when they got to the door, realized, you know, the situation, invited them in. You know, our homes are always open. It was cookies and hot cocoa, and invited all the neighbors to come to them. So I think what part of our game plan is just working to can we bring people together and try to meet as many as humanly possible at once.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to be working hard with other, you know, continue our work with other candidates and tagging on as we can to help each other out. Because we do have some overlap in districts.
Do you think you'll be able to have a media campaign?
Given the short time frame for raising money, I'm not sure that that's going to be possible. You know, TV, radio is probably out of budget, but we are going to look at doing some social media. I think one of the keys in my last campaign is we worked really hard to turn out the young voters that were disenfranchised. We've got a huge group of people, and a lot of them tend to play more on social media channels with, you know, they're tired of these factions that are trying to dismantle everything we fought for. You know, I shouldn't be sitting here in 2022 with what they've done to completely tear apart women's reproductive health care.
That's a huge issue, isn't it?
And you know, we've got people that are, it's appalling. I mean, that was a rough day, even knowing it was coming.
Yeah, we did know, didn't we?
And I think we have to, you know, we've got to reach out, and we've just got to get people to turn out and vote, and, you know, get our marginalized populations to know that, yeah, we're gonna fight for you, we're gonna continue to work for you. And, you know, in Manchester, I've got friends that, you know, it's like I want everybody to feel like I want them to be able to come to me. I want them to be comfortable with whatever challenges they're facing. I use them as sounding boards. But we need to start creating it, because we need this younger population to engage. I can't even remember what our median age in the state is right now. But we are aging out, and if we don't start getting younger people engaged, it's going to be a problem for us, and it's going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah, I think the demographics that we're facing here in the state of New Hampshire, we should be concerned about it. I mean, you know, I'm not helping on that front at all, but, you know.
Well, you are, though, because you recognize that we need to do things for, you know, climate sustainability. We need to have affordable housing. When a young professional can't, you know, they graduate school and they can't afford to work and live here.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have municipal employees or people working full-time jobs we should be paying them so that they're not on welfare benefits.
Right.
Why, you know, we need to pay more. We need to just correct. There's yeah, there's so much to correct, and as Lou said, it's definitely something it's going to take time to chip away.
Yeah. Well,
So is this, in fact,
sorry, go
step
ahead.
one, is this step one of our media campaign right
I guess
here?
this is step one of our media campaign. When you do the progress report,
There you go.
done.
may our audience respond in vast numbers.
Hey, this show
Nice
helped
you
me
would
at my
call in
last
once in a while,
campaign.
folks. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other issues that seem to be very important. You know, the commuter rail, bring
Yes.
that back into this Capitol Corridor project. Near and dear to me, you know. Here I got my my cap. You know, I love trains. What do you think? Can you help advance that if you become a senator?
We
Or
need
or is it-
to.
yeah.
I'm actually working now trying to help advance it at the city level. We've had some discussions where we're trying to look at how we can make this happen.
Yeah.
It's critical, and I believe our governor feels that having this rail system is going to make people leave the state. I think what they're missing is the resources and the beauty of New Hampshire. People love living in New Hampshire.
Yes, they do.
I used to do the commute to Boston. You've done the commute to Cambridge, and
Had I had
honestly,
the option of the train, I would have used it. I would not have moved. I would have stayed here and
Yeah.
you
took the
would have
train. Yeah.
taken the train.
Well, I was buying a new phone today at Verizon up in Hooksett, and the guy who was selling me the phone commutes from Boston.
Yes.
He would love to be able to take the train.
it would
He could
be-
work.
yeah.
He could work on the train. It's not just about helping people get to North Station to watch a ball game, Bruins game or something.
it's
It's
the
about
hours you
bringing
get
bringing
back
these
of your
people that would
life.
like to come here and help us out that
Right.
don't want to
Yes.
spend an hour stuck in traffic on
It,
93.
it's more than an hour. I mean, I had commute days where if I did not leave Manchester by 6:15 in the morning, I couldn't make it to a 9 o'clock meeting.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What other issues can we talk about? I guess you've already indicated you're going to be a supporter of adequate funding for public education. Is that
Yes,
right? And stop the
absolutely.
diversion of funds to voucher programs and
Yes.
go to private and
We need
religious
to-
schools.
Lou's right, where the gutting of the education system is not helping democracy. We need to be able to teach our children what has happened in the past. We need to
Yeah.
give the teachers the leeway to do their jobs, and we need to fund them properly to do their jobs.
Yeah, really. I think that's absolutely true. We had this video about the threat to democracy. Do you think our democracy is under threat?
I think what we're seeing right now, if we aren't putting the right people in office, if we're not asking the right questions, yes. We've got people putting themselves, we've got extreme candidates that I guess you would consider the Free State Party, registering as Democrats on ballots.
They do
just to
that.
get
Yes,
in.
they do that. That's true.
And on the Republican side, we've got people, I have many friends who are Republicans. I love the fact that we have things that we don't agree on everything, and that's okay. We can have healthy discussion about it, and we can kind of figure out how do we make it better.
Yeah.
We're all looking for the same end goal. And I think what's happening too is a lot of people aren't understanding that maybe the candidates on the Republican side aren't really the Republicans you think they are.
Yes.
And I think people have gotten too used to going to the polls and just checking a box.
Yeah.
And not, really doing the research to know what is the candidate, who is the candidate. We've also got candidates that are being trained to just tell people what they want to hear
Yeah.
so that you can get in office and then take care of whatever extremist agenda you want to push forward.
Yeah. Well, when you ran for alderman at large and very successfully, you had very great success in financing your campaign with donations. So we're pretty close to the end here, but you probably ought to tell people how they can contribute to your campaign and maybe not just financially, but in other ways, and where they should go and help you out, particularly, I guess, certainly in Ward 1, but in the towns.
I think probably easiest right now, because we've gone into this so fast, I don't have a lot of Senate things, so we're still, we're June for Manchester, June Trisciani, Alderman at Large on Facebook, June for Manchester on Twitter, June for Manch on Instagram. My phone number's out there. Anybody can call me at 603-502-7800. You can reach me, June for NH Senate, so it's June, fornhsenate@gmail.com. We are, yes, donations are helpful. Bodies to help us knock doors, to do visibility at the polls. If someone's got a great spot and wants to throw a sign in the yard, we'll have some signs hopefully tomorrow. We'll get the mailers, but if anybody lend a hand, we can use it. We're accepting all offers right now.
Do you have a campaign manager?
I am fortunate enough to have someone helping us from the Senate caucus.
Okay.
Given the fact at this juncture of trying, this, it's tough to hire employees everywhere. At this juncture, trying
Yes, it
to
is.
hire someone to do that is next to impossible.
Yeah,
So I've been fortunate enough that I have a lot of support, party support,
Yeah.
and a lot of the town and county chairs supporting and helping.
I have to believe that, you are, as the unity leader described, even though they got your name wrong in their line, a rising star in Democratic politics. I have to believe that a lot of people were urging you to make this run, and you exceeded, and hope those people are going to turn out to be strong supporters of yours now that you've agreed to do this, because it's not easy, and it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time.
Is the
And-
Pumpkin Festival before the election? Isn't it?
Yes, we'll be at the
Maybe-
Goffstown
there you
Pumpkin
go, yeah.
Festival.
Oh, they're doing that again this
That's
year?
a great
I
event.
hope so.
I hope so, yeah, that's
we've
a
also,
great
that's
event.
one of our, you can bike out on the rail trail.
You can bike
park
out
your
on the
bike
rail
there.
trail.
It's great.
You guys have bikes, you like to bike?
yes.
Well, it's a nice
Yes.
trail.
And we've also got the candidate forum in Goffstown on Friday night.
Yeah.
So that'll be another good event. But yeah, we're there for anybody who has questions on anything, anybody that wants to help. We have Act Blue set up for fundraising.
Well, you just did this whole thing, just over a year ago, and the statewide, and now to do it again. Are you still having fun doing it?
Yes.
Are
I
you,
know.
Jeff?
Yeah.
That's really good to hear. I mean, I think people want to see people enjoying what they're doing at their work, and this is important work, and it's a really
You
important.
can't just climb the same mountain again.
Yeah,
Climb a new mountain.
that's true.
I like to remind him he got himself into this willingly.
He did. I mean, it's just wonderful that you are such a strong team. And I want to thank you for coming in. I'm sorry Lou couldn't join us, except it was wonderful to have him on the phone.
Yes.
And he's somebody to emulate, because I mean, wherever he goes, people are always greeting him. I have strong differences with Lou on many, well, not many issues, a couple of issues, but he's a dear friend, and I just admire what he's done so much with his contribution to the people of New Hampshire, and that's not just in a broad sense, but individuals that he's helped everywhere he goes, and that's one of the great rewarding things about being in public office, when you can help somebody navigate the bureaucracy or deal with a particular issue. So I thank you both for coming in and joining me. I think this has been a terrific hour, and I hope it helps out.
I do too.
And
Thank you.
we'll be back next week with another edition of the Progress Report, this time with Mike Farley. It's going to happen. Take care, folks.